question number 1. Why do men feel like they need to hold their emotions in?
It's a really deep question.
Yep.
It's a really deep. I think we could all probably speak to our own personal reasoning.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think. Okay,
so.
I'll start. My personal reasoning is showing vulnerability myself in the past has been used against me. So, past relationships, I've allowed myself to be vulnerable. I've spoken about my feelings, and then all of a sudden they're chucked back in my face and used against me in however way.
Yeah.
And so for me, that gradually built a wall in which I didn't want my feelings to be on display or talked about.
And suddenly you have this tough guy persona, rightly or wrongly, this hard exterior, right?
But it's very hard to maintain,
unapproachable.
because then as soon as you got that tough guy
Gotta live
exterior,
up to it.
if you can't even talk to your other half about it, how do you speak to your friends about it? How do you speak to
Yeah.
anybody about it?
Where's your safe space?
So you don't have one.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're trying to bottle that shit up. And
That
it
sounds
gets the
really,
best of
really
you.
healthy, eh? Not healthy.
Not
Yeah.
healthy.
So mine's similar. Like, a lot of it's to do with my personality. I'm a heavy introvert. I don't like feeling vulnerable. And
You're finding this tough just describing it,
Yes,
eh? It's
yeah,
written all
yeah.
over your face.
Yeah. So I shield myself. I don't like people knowing what I'm thinking.
Yep.
Yeah, so mine's, yeah. I am
This
struggling.
is good for you, eh? This is like, if nothing else, this podcast will be real good for you
Yeah,
personally. I
opens me
reckon
up.
you're going to grow, just sharing.
Why
Yes,
don't
sir.
they talk about their feelings? What was the question?
Why do men feel like they have to hide their feelings?
Why
Hide
do
their feelings.
men feel like they need to hold their emotions
Hold
in?
their emotions
Because
in.
they
Yeah.
don't have the Making
I-
a Statement podcast to talk about their emotions.
Yeah.
Now
And
Eddie
the
has
other-
this.
And the other one is I don't trust my emotions. That's my biggest one. So I try and suppress emotions, and I try and use logic and reasoning.
Yes.
I don't like surrendering to any of my emotions,
Yes.
whether it be anger, sadness, despair. So that's why I struggle
Is that
with
about
it.
control?
Self-control.
Yeah.
Or-
Being in control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate being angry because I can lose it.
Yeah.
I have done so.
But that's because you're not having an event up until that point that you then lose it, because then it's either you've got control or you lose the control, and then when you
Yeah.
lose the control, that's a
Yeah.
that's a situation.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think because I don't express my emotions, I keep bottling them up, and then it becomes rage, and then it spills out.
Out it comes.
Out it comes.
Like a volcano.
Like
Your
a
turn.
volcano.
Your turn, Nathan. Let's hear.
I'm kind of an extrovert, so I have the opposite. I wear my heart on my sleeve a lot, and like to your point, like it still gets used against you. You still have challenges with that. For me, the easiest emotion to let out's always been anger. Short fuse, quick to temper, quick to launch a tool across the workshop, or snap a harsh word at one of the kids, kind of thing. What I'm learning as I get a little bit older and wiser is that the simple act of being vulnerable builds trust like nothing else. So if you are vulnerable with your colleagues and with those that you love, and you're like, hey, I don't know everything, or I'm not sure about this. What's your take on it? I'm not very good at this. Can you help me? All of those kinds of things just build massive amounts of trust when you're being a bit vulnerable. People are like, holy crap, they're human and they have failings and they're not perfect, or my boss is not perfect and he's asking me for my advice and my help, and it just, So I'm trying to be exactly the opposite of bottling them up, exactly the opposite of hiding them, and not being sort of scared of saying, this is how I'm feeling right at this moment. I feel, like I'm really uncomfortable with this. I'll give you a great example. Multi-language week just came and went not long ago. And I'm working with a client, and they're like, our business unit has to do a waiata. So every business unit's going to do a waiata, and they'll be recorded, and they'll be put on the intranet for the whole company, and we'll have a contest, and there's a prize and stuff. And I'm like, I don't speak today. The idea of singing in a language I can't even speak, I think I'd rather perform naked on stage than do that.
Are you a good singer?
No.
Oh,
so I don't think so.
Yeah. So that's another problem.
Yeah. And so I'm just mortified. But I just said that, actually, that's so far outside my comfort zone. I'm absolutely terrified of that. I'm really uncomfortable doing it, and just said so. And whereas previously I might have just, like stood in the back and mumbled and, like tried to get into it, and just
Just
try
try
to
and hide
to
in the
mine
background.
But you would have been
we're-
dreading
yeah.
it the entire time.
100%.
That's something I've started doing myself, is not being a people pleaser. Because I
Yes.
think that's what that is.
And it puts a real heap of pressure on yourself, and it makes you, it's not good for you mentally.
No, because if you sign...
Anxiety, in it. It's building anxiety. That's anxiety.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So I've noticed that myself, is like, if I signed up for something like that, if I was in that position, I'd sign up for a month away, but that whole month I'll be dreading that day.
Yeah.
And now I've kind of got to the point where, like, my schedule is too busy, my time is too valuable. I'm not signing up for stuff that I don't want to do, and I just say no. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and so we're drifting off topic, but I think it's a good diversion, is that whole saying no, and saying it with respect and love, and, you wouldn't slap someone down and go, my time's too valuable, I'm not coming to your barbecue.
No.
You know what I mean? I'd love to come. Unfortunately, I have all this other stuff on, or I have prior commitments or whatever, but like getting better at just saying no and removing the anxiety that goes with doing the thing you don't want to do.
Yeah.
And
But that's not to say you shouldn't go outside your comfort zone.
No.
Because
No.
then that's the only way you grow. So there's a balance.
Yes.
You
Yes.
got
I was
you
gonna
got
say,
you got to do a bit of
growth
both,
and
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
But saying what you were saying before, that vulnerability, and also just allowing that to be seen, I've taken that step myself when it comes to, like, for example, my work. So I took a bit of time off with my back injury that I mentioned previously.
Yeah.
And I've also mentioned previously the painkiller addiction that I went through.
Yeah.
So now what I've actually done is, with my team, I've discussed with them, hey, just letting you guys know, like, I've actually been going through this, and because of this, which was the painkiller addiction, I'm struggling with this because I'm in pain, but I don't know how to I don't know how to handle it.
Yep.
But I just completely was transparent and vulnerable, and let them know what I was going through, so that they could understand, and they're not just thinking, what's my boss up to? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and
All
so
the
how did-
leadership courses I've ever done explain that's what you should do.
Communication is key.
Communication.
How
It's
did they respond to that honesty? That
There was sympathy.
yeah.
But I think there was respect. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was being transparent. I wasn't trying to come up with cover stories. I wasn't trying to. We actually were supposed to just have our little 5-minute team huddle in the morning,
And it just went off on a tangent like next
and
minute.
it went
Yeah.
for like almost an hour.
Yeah.
Because I told my story, but I told my story so that they knew who was speaking to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And where I was
yeah,
coming from with
yeah.
the words I was saying.
That's not very productive.
No, but it was.
There's
It's
value in it
was.
though.
It's
There's,
team building.
yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah, it
I'm
was.
only giving it.
there's
Oh,
value
It's
in
team
it.
building.
It was also after being off work for a couple of weeks, and trying to. I'm not just. I'm not just. This is something I actually wanted to talk about. Is I feel guilt taking sick days because of the people that have put the stigma surrounding days off. There's so many people. If you call in sick,
Yes.
it's probably 50-50 as to whether or not somebody
Oh.
believes you.
Oh, he's
Because-
taking a can't be stuffed holiday.
Well,
Monday
I
day
felt
off.
I felt stink taking 5 days off with the kidney stones.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
went back to work.
But also, there's almost this thing that I don't know if it's just me, but it's almost like, do they believe me, or
Yeah.
do they think I'm just having sick
Nah,
days?
Mine
So
wasn't
you
about
you
that,
wait
though.
till you're self-employed, and then the pressure you put on yourself to be productive.
Yeah.
So because now you're only answerable to you, but from being an artist and like critiquing your own work, you are your own worst critic. So the minute you're self-employed, like sick days don't exist, not because of hardship or any of that nonsense, just because of self-imposed, I must work, I must be productive, I must take my business forward. What have I done today to grow it or further it? You'd probably be like that planning the podcast.
He's like
What's
that
the
with
next step?
everything.
I don't slow down
He
at
doesn't
all.
slow down.
No,
I mean,
he's full on.
people can see my hand's in a brace right now because my hand is buggered, but I'm still going to
He's got-
work every
he's got
day.
carpal tunnel.
I've got something
You're
going on,
down
but I
there.
go to work every day. Then I'm still coming home, and I've got too much to do for me to take a break. So
And his wife is
I just-
very confused by the size of the OnlyFans
actually got a-
invoice
I forgot-
on the credit card bill that's coincided strangely with the
I've gotta
hand
find-
injury.
I've got to find my one for you. My one's better than that. That one's so good.
Yeah.
Mine will go down to the forearm.
it will do. But
Please tell me we're talking about medical aids for
Yeah,
injured tendons.
yeah, Eddie's
good.
just talking about his history of OnlyFans.
Yeah, so it's entirely legitimate. So, some different answers there, eh? Like,
Definitely.
Eddie and I are probably at completely different ends of the spectrum.
I can tell you're an extrovert. I've
Yeah.
got to force myself to be extroverted.
What would you consider me as? Because I
I've always-
don't know.
I've always said you're an introvert,
Yeah,
but you've taught yourself to be extroverted.
yes.
You can't. I've known you since you were a child. You're an introvert, but you've mastered both.
You kind of like bottle it up, think about it, and then it comes out in these beautiful lyrics. You know what I mean?
Artistry.
Like
Yeah.
that's your venting of it. It's
Yeah.
like it's still controlled, and it's only the message that you want to share. Like by the time you have put voice to a microphone, the pen's been on the paper for ages. You've been like rolling lyrics around, killing your babies, so to speak. We do this when we're editing film as well. Like I really love that shot. You got to kill the baby because it doesn't fit. And so you'll have done the same. You'll have gone through that process. So what I hear is a very refined, very selective view into an incident or your thoughts or feelings on a subject. And the rest of the time, that's, locked away, I think.
I think that's
Opposites attract.
that's a
So-
very good.
You tend to go toward the other way. So as an introvert, you tend to gravitate toward an extrovert, and your wife is extroverted.
She can be.
Yeah,
She can be, but
Yeah.
she's her own version of anxiety
Oh,
and
yeah, everyone suffers from
Yeah,
anxiety
but
no matter what.
I saw a-
there's nothing to do with.
I saw a
introvert or
slice of that
extrovert.
when I put a camera in her face on her wedding day.
you probably yeah. No, she's awesome at both, but it depends on the
I
people
think
she's
she's
around.
more. Be
It's a
interesting.
comfort thing.
Comfort.
Yeah, it's a comfort.
Security. Yeah, do I feel safe?
Yep. So I think what you're saying there, but though about lyrics and the way I articulate them and the process I go through, I think that is a very important point to bring up on this topic, because as much as I may not feel comfortable sharing my emotions with my people at times,
Yes.
You do
I've
it through
always been
lyrics.
able to express myself through lyrics.
Yeah.
Now, I've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of unreleased songs and lyrics on my phone, because if I have a moment, even if it's just myself that needs to vent something,
Just a piece
no
of
matter,
something,
no
like
matter
part of a
what
picture.
it is, even if it's just a huge argument I might have had, or just a problem that I might have seen, or just something I didn't agree with, I can write that shit down, and that's saved forever as a lyric. Doesn't necessarily mean I have to put it out, but I've vented.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that
you've
little-
got it out.
That escape is that's like my safe place, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm actually going to take this all the way back around, but back in the days when I was in a really dark place and I was doing my own little depression, and I didn't know what I was going through at the time, I was just stuck.
You were young.
I wrote a song at the time. It was called Help Me, and I've kept it on my laptop to myself this entire time. But my concept of that was I was going to write my suicide note in the form of a song. But if I didn't have that outlet of creating or turning that emotion and that feeling into art,
Yeah.
what would have happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it was very important to have. If you don't have somebody to talk to, you've got some way to vent.